Welcome back to Red Pen of Destiny, on our ongoing series covering every episode of Two of These People Are Lying by the technical difficulties found on the Matt and Tom YouTube channel. This time we're doing Season 1, Episode 3, Duryard. If you haven't been watching previous episodes, do go back and check out the intro where I explain what the show's about. And if you're interested in the show, which you should probably watch before this episode, actually, there will be links in the description to the actual video. Of course, it's on YouTube, so it is free. I guess actually it would not necessarily be free if it was on YouTube, but it is on free YouTube. And for this series, we do pluses and minuses. There are 2 rounds per episode in this season, so we go through the rounds. We have a positive before we get to the first round, though. Wait, no, no, it's not a positive. It's a lack of a positive. I'm sorry. Gary forgets his intro line. Usually he brings a funny intro line, and I believe he did bring one. He simply forgot to say it, and they just never re-recorded it, so he has no intro. So lack of a positive there. So the first round was on Duryard. And before they even start, there's a little jipe of Matt using tea as a bit of a stalling mechanism. Just Tom's about to ask him what his is about, and he's happens to be drinking some tea at the time. So there's a little jipes about that. But the answers for this one were Anton Duryard, a famous cricketer, and then a British town in the southeast near Exeter. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And a town in Nebraska. So some changes, differences there. Interesting that 2 of them ended up with a town. I guess Duryard sounds more town-like than anything else, so makes sense. So our first positive is the whole thing that ensues over the fact that Duryard contains Exeter University. There's a little bit of confusion, and they're making jokes about Duryard U and such. The university is actually Exeter University. It's not quite so comical a name, though I don't really see what's comical about Duryard, but hey, that's just me. And then there's another little positive we have when they're talking about the Nebraska Duryard, which is a little jipe about Westwood expansion. Westwood is, of course, a famous British rapper, I believe. He hosted the British version of Pimp My Ride. Not sure if that makes him the British exhibit or not, but there you go. And then our first sample occurs. I don't want to call it a sample, which is Chris has something to say about the fact that he just wrote off the other 2 competitors.
Really quite dismissive about it.
At least 50% of them have every right to be very upset. I might say more like 75 the way you've treated some of them.
Just like the way that goes. It's like, because he was very like, nope, definitely not you. It's definitely not you. I think that was a really interesting little line there. It was quite funny. And then there was a little thing, because at some point Tom asked a question, and I quote, Duryard, a town in the southwest, what's there? To which Gary responds, Exeter, responding to the question, what's in the southwest? And that becomes the crux of Tom's decision-making on Duryard not being a real place. So I think it ended up being pretty funny. And then there's a little jipe at the end about that being the case. And that brings us neatly on to the second round, which is Willoughby Run. And the answers given for this were a creek in Pennsylvania, an album by jazz multi-instrumentalist Roland Kirk, and I forgot to write the other one down, but it was some sort of geological formation somewhere, famous for chert nodules. It's a funny little term there. Chris apparently has some geological knowledge, so he can pull some random places on that. But that brings us neatly on to our second little clip here. Should be right there.
It's a good jazz
name, mother.
That's
Sorry.
If you didn't quite catch that, they were saying how good the jazz name of Roland Kirk is, which is a real that is a real person. Though the album Willoughby Run is a made up title, Roland Kirk is not. The album was actually entitled slightly Latin, which actually ended up being a joke because Matt actually has a GCSE in Latin, so he knows a bit about Latin. And this is the last episode in the season, so they put that in at the end as a little aside. And then we have the standard positive for this season, which is the no outro gag. But that brings us neatly to the end of this season. There'll be a new episode out this Thursday, where we're going to start season 2 up, following on the best series to start in 2019, in my opinion, of course. Hope you join us then.